Welcome to the Failing Writers podcast. Now, the multi-award-winning Failing Writers podcast. In this episode, Tom and John are investigating, exploring the best ways, the different methods you can use to improve your sentences, to revolutionise your writing. Yep. We're talking editing. So, here it is. So, without further ado, let's just get on with it.
Tommy.
Hello.
Hello there.
John.
Listen, before we kick off, what is frankly a life-changing chat about editing.
It is, isn't it? Isn't she good?
She's so good.
Yeah.
I have been meaning to ask you for ages, and I haven't. Any news from the querying trenches? Any, polite rejections or requests or anything to report at all?
A couple of other just bog standard rejections come through, and everything else has gone super quiet.
Like pro forma stuff?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, it's all gone very quiet on that front.
And how many have we got out?
25 or so.
All right.
So
we're early days, really.
Yeah. But obviously, I was expecting to have something be published by now. So that's disappointing, isn't it? That it's taking weeks.
At least weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it is summer as well. People have holidays and stuff. And
that's true. That's probably what it is.
That's what I'm clinging to. Yeah. I think I've done that thing where you do that, you send it off, and really what I should be doing is getting stuck into writing something new. But I've been in that little bit of a lull of using it as a bit of a vacuum, isn't it, after you've sent it off? Because you're like...
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
You need to crack straight in. You maybe say, right, have a clear week, but then crack straight into something. Yeah.
I think it can feel like a bit of a full-time job as well, can't it? It's like, I'm querying now. That's what I'm doing. So
yeah, actually... I mean, it's amazing how much you think, well, you just send off the same thing to lots of people, but when you're trying to... when you're trying to just tailor it to different people and you got to do all the research into exactly what they're looking for and things. I think that's right. If you do it properly like that, then
time-consuming.
It is. Massive waste of time.
Well, that's where we are. That's all right. You're doing what you're supposed to do. That's great.
It's funny. There was a I think it was on Threads the other day. Someone had, how do you cope with this constant rejection of the querying thing? And I replied saying, I think you've just got to accept that it's normal.
Yes, that is a very good shout.
And it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Because it's very easy you see all these, people will shout about their successes on social media. And I said in that, it's annoying, isn't it, when you see, I've sent out 5 queries and had 3 offers. Is that reasonable? Is that normal? Is that a good ratio? Am I doing okay?
Yeah, people don't shout about the sheer amount of rejections they've had, or they don't.
Not so much. Not so much. No. So just accepting that it's fine.
Yeah,
and it's not a rejection of you. It's just a rejection of your shit writing. And we can cope with that, can't we?
I think so. I think 5 years ago as well, I think we might have been like 25. I've had 25 rejections. Yeah. It's unbelievable. Whereas now, I think we're, what's the word?
Water off a duck's back, John.
It's water off a duck's back. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Well, great. I'm just going to say great. Well done, Tom, for cracking on.
Yeah. It's good to be in there, isn't it? Good to be in the mix.
That's all you got to do. Time's up on the poetry competition. We should say that before we start as well.
Yeah.
So, yes, we'll be going through all of your entries over the next week and handing over a bunch of cherry-picked beauties to Rowan McCabe to pick a winner from.
Yeah.
So look out for that episode in the not-too-distant future. Right, Tom.
So this week we're having a chat with Sara Grant, who's written a brilliant book on editing, which I found massively useful because I sort of got stuck before when I was trying to finish my kids' book. Kind of got stuck about, well, what do I need to do to edit it? I was getting myself in all kinds of knots. So I got hold of Sara's book, and frankly, it was brilliant.
So an actual, genuinely useful craft book about editing.
Yeah.
All right.
So I thought, well, let's give her a shout and have a chat with her on the podcast. Sara Grant, thank you very much for joining us on the Failing Writers podcast.
My pleasure.
Now, I bought your book, The Ultimate Guide to Editing Your Novel,
That is very kind of you.
which you claim is a revolutionary approach to transform your writing.
Yeah.
That's a bold claim for the front cover, isn't it?
I will also say my publishers are also responsible for the bold claim. Yes, it is a bold claim, but, go big, go home.
Yeah, having said that, I have read your book, and I would now probably agree.
That's great. You scared me there for a second.
Do you know how good your book is, though? Before we started this interview, I thought, I wanted to go through and just highlight some bits and pick out some pages and things to talk about. And I started doing that, and I haven't done that because I just started reading it again.
That's very kind. I'm so pleased that it's
So I was
had some value for you. That's great.
Yeah, that's a good sign, isn't it?
It is.
It's one of those things, isn't it, editing, that's... it seems like it should be really quite simple, kind of straightforward. Like you should be able to just work out how to do it. It's just making stuff better, isn't it? But what's your kind of overall philosophy on editing? Do you have a kind of pithy way of summing up your method?
Well, it comes from, I would finish a draft of a novel, when I first started out, and I'd know something isn't working. And then I just read it from start to finish, trying to figure out what was wrong and hoping that like magically what wasn't working would reveal itself and maybe automatically correct itself, although that didn't happen. And so like over the last 20 years, I thought I'm a very practical hands-on person, just reading things and saying, people say, look at voice and look at your character development. I want very practical things to do.
Right.
And so I guess if, I don't know if it's pithy, but edit in layers, edit from the big picture to the minute detail and kind of start looking big at plot structure, character, emotional journeys, all those big things, pacing, setting, tension, drama, voice, and then do what most people think of when they think of editing, which is line editing or proofreading.
Right.
But don't start proofreading if you're going to throw out a whole chapter, because I have an exercise that looks at chapters and says, does this chapter really matter? So the book really goes chapter by chapter, scene by scene, character by character, eventually page by page, paragraph by paragraph, and then line by line. That's kind of the way it goes through. There's also some different ways to look at it, but I try to give a bunch of different exercises so that, some people, certain exercises won't resonate, they don't understand, or it's not an issue. So try to give them a lot of ways to look at it. And the idea was that you could you have your rough draft and you could use it from start to finish and say, I'm going to go through it systematically. Or you could say, I have a rough draft and I know character isn't working, or I know the pace is lagging, or I know the voice isn't right. And then you could use it more as a diagnostic tool and just look at that chapter on voice or just look at that chapter on character.
And that's the great thing about your book, isn't it? Because at the end of every chapter, there's like a practical exercise to do that is, because it's very easy when you read books like this about editing and such like. You kind of read it and take it all in. And then you almost, I don't know, it's like a lying to yourself because you don't want to actually delve in and rip your book to bits again. But by doing the exercise, there's kind of nowhere to hide. It's like a right, do this and you will know whether this is right or wrong.
Yeah, and
that's really helpful.
It's also that, setting and reading your book from start to finish and really kind of digging in and analyzing it and trying to do all the levels at once will take a long time. I mean, if you can do a chapter a day, I would be impressed. Whereas this, if you look at the character by character exercise, which is one of my favorites, where you highlight every character, use find and replace and highlight every character a different color. And then you just read your story character by character to look for consistency and voice and all those great things. You can look at a character in an 80,000 word novel in an hour maybe, or depending on how much you're correcting. And I like things like that. I like things that, we all don't have 8 hours to sit down and roll up our sleeves, but I can do something that's going to take me 30 minutes or an hour. And I like that kind of, because there's a checklist at the end of every chapter, and I am a to-do list, check it off kind of person. So I like the idea that I can write down, going to look at character emotional journeys for my main character, and then go, yep, did that.
So part of your method, it sounds like, is you can't kind of look at too many aspects of your novel at the same time. Like you really need to focus on certain things. Otherwise, you're just going to get either confused or... Is that sort of the idea? Is that you're really kind of super focusing on one thing?
Yeah, you're honing in on one aspect. Because I think, there are people who have the greater brain power than myself who can maybe hold all these things in their head at one time.
Yeah. That's definitely not me.
But, if you're looking at character, and let's say you're looking at a secondary character and you want to look at the emotional journey of the secondary character, if you only look at scenes with that character in it, you can say, simple things like, do they have the same eye color in chapter 7 and in chapter 27? Because I've done it. They've changed from blue to green. Or, looking at their journey, do they start off in this place and are they ending up in the next place? Or adding layers. I had a character who I wanted to show. I realized that they needed to be more nervous, and so really easily I could go through and just place a few ticks that made them appear more nervous. And it was surprising how easy that was when I'm only looking at that one character and really paying attention to that one character. And I think it's the same for, when you just look at plot, when you just look at the structural edit, or you just consider your subplots, or, I think all those things, because there's so much in a novel. And I remember I taught at Goldsmiths and I taught at the University of London, their classes on writing for children. And I remember I had one student came in and she had a great rough draft of a few chapters. It was really good. And so I started kind of talking to her about some of the things that she could do. And she looked at me, she said, "That's hard work." And I was like, I'm not sure who told you it was going to be easy. But anyway, but I enjoy doing those things. And the idea that you do these things once, and then maybe in some of these exercises, the next time you don't have the next novel, the next draft, you don't have to do it again, because you'll sort some things out about yourself as a writer.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Because there's like an exercise on color coding, because I love highlighters.
That definitely comes through, on that bit. Yeah,
I know. I had at the book launch, I left with a bag of all my friends gave me highlighters, which was lovely because they know I'll use it. And I'm old school, so I print things out. So I'm not saying that's good, but I do. But you highlight like dialogue, action, description, exposition in your draft, like maybe in a couple chapters, and see how you tell a story. And like when I did that early on, I realized dialogue would go on forever and description would be almost non-existent. And so again, when I know that about myself, then I don't have to do that again, because I am consciously now, as I'm creating, I'm learning and hopefully improving and making different mistakes on the next one.
Yeah, indeed. But doing it in that, splitting up into all these individual bits, like you say, so they are tick-offable on a to-do list, it does stop it being overwhelming, doesn't it? Because like you say, with that girl that you were teaching, it can be like, oh my God, that's impossible to go in and redo it. And you've just come off the back of writing it, which is a task. It can be hugely, hugely overwhelming to think, oh, what am I going to do? What do I need to do?
Yeah, was that one of your, one of the things kind of holding you back, Tommy, from looking at your book again?
Yeah, I think it was. It
was just slightly overwhelming, like just not really knowing how to attack it.
And not wanting to go into it, obviously, because it was brilliant after the first draft anyway, and then not wanting to go into it and kind of ruining that, or not knowing what to change.
The genius.
Because you can go into anything, can't you, and change stuff.
Yeah.
Any idiot can do that.
But unless you know what you're doing, you could just be making
whether you're
it worse.
changing the right stuff. Yeah.
Well, and I think also, if it's intricate, so I love it when someone says, "Oh, just change, the character motivation," and you're like,
that might have some other effects throughout the book. That might change a few things.
Just a few. Or if you remove, I had an edit from somebody and they were like, "Oh, just remove this line," but I'm like, no. What you've read one chapter, what you don't realize is that very line is a setup that's going to come later. And I appreciate that you don't, and maybe it's not kind of woven in nicely enough. Maybe I've dropped it in and not kind of made it feel organic, but it is that kind of picking apart. And it is a worry that you'll unravel something. So hopefully if you're just looking at one thing at a time, that won't happen, because you're just going to focus on the pace or a certain subplot or whatever that you have.
Yeah, you're not making the entire tower collapse every time you change something. Sarah, it sounds like you've had loads of experience, like you've done workshops and things on editing. What part of editing do people seem to struggle the most with in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think voice is a big one.
Right.
I think, and that is that's a very tough thing, because some people just naturally have, they can land a voice on a page and it's almost effortless. And it's the hardest thing to help people see, really.
Yeah, it's kind of elusive, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like show versus tell.
Yeah.
I do a lot of school visits, and when I see a young writer who gets, and maybe they don't understand that it's show versus tell, but when they understand that, how they're bringing that story to life, that they're not just telling me a story, that they're actually giving me all those wonderful details and kind of giving me that moment by moment experience. Because I was an editor at Working Partners, and I'm still an editor and do some work for a company called StoryMix. And also like working with students, doing workshops, all that. That is, I think, the one thing that I see, because, if it's pacing, if it's character, if it's those, I can give you some very specific things to look at. And, I can say, this is flabby. But if you don't understand show versus tell, if you just don't understand that, or if I'm trying to help you with voice, because it's at the DNA level. It's every decision you make leads to voice. And if you have that flat voice, if you really don't have that spark in your writing, it's hard to help people see it, and it's hard to help people change it.
So what do you do in that situation? Do you just stand behind them and tut and sigh and go, oh, there's no hope for you, sunshine. Put the pen down, go and find something else to do.
Dear.
How do you help them find a voice or understand?
Usually there are moments in a story.
Right.
And it's saying, look at this, look how you've done this. Look how you've developed this moment. And look at how you've done all those things, and look at your word choice. And so it's kind of saying, because usually, I don't think I've ever seen a piece of writing where I've gone, ugh. Because there is a voice in the piece. There's always a voice.
Yeah.
But where it's consistently flat, or where there isn't any spark.
So you're searching for little nuggets.
You find those moments, yeah. And also you talk to them about that it's about word choice and syntax. And in the book, there's some things that talk about who are you as a writer and who is your character, and knowing those two things, what words they would use. Because I this morning was just working on some character development for a new character, and I sat down and think about what is the style of writing, what is the voice of this piece based on her history and her experience, and also her age. She's younger than I am, and so her frame of references are going to be different than me. And she was a journalism student, so she is, well, which I was as well. But so I think she's going to talk in very short sentences, and she's going to be very direct, and she's going to notice a lot. So her sections are going to have a lot more description than maybe some of the other sections, other points of view of the book. So it is helping someone find those moments and just helping them see how to expand that through the whole book. I think an easy way to do that is understanding your voice and how you normally write. Because, we all have that unique original voice. We all do. We already have it already. You guys have that. I mean, your podcast has this wonderful, sparky, banter and humor in it. And, finding a story that lends itself to your own voice is the easiest way to do that. Do that. I mean, if you're trying to write someone who's counter to you, then that's a bigger challenge. But it's also a fun challenge. It's also something exciting to take on. But again, I think if writers kind of struggle with it, think about finding those projects that are going to play in your sweet spot.
Yeah. And
it will make voice easier.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because it is something you do very naturally, isn't it? I mean, in some ways, you can't help your voice. It's literally how you think, isn't it?
Yes, it's how you think, it's how you talk, it's the words you choose, your syntax, your length of sentences, it's everything. And it's interesting because, like with the ultimate guide to editing your novel is me and my voice. And I found that challenging because I was so used to like slipping under the skin of another character.
Yeah.
But saying, how do I talk on the page?
Yeah.
How do I make myself sound accessible? And not irritatingly so, because I mean, my husband will tell you I don't finish sentences and I start in the middle of a discussion with him. And so, I don't want to do those things. That was a really interesting challenge because it's the first nonfiction book I've ever written. And I got to say, writing in myself is not a comfortable thing, because there's a lot about me and I'm like,
there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about, have you have you met any writers who just hate editing? Because I have this theory that writers tend to fall into two categories. You kind of get your conceivers who just love the sort of thrill of the initial idea, you know, the spark of ideas, and they enjoy writing the first draft and their imagination's firing. And then you get the refiners who really enjoy all the shaping and the crafting and, you know, all the music of the language and everything. Do you think that's true, or do you think do you think most writers are basically, they have to like both of those things, otherwise they wouldn't do it?
I know writers, I've heard writers say before that they find writing painful. They hate the process. And I'm like, I mean, I love the process. I love writing. I am happiest when I have a project. And I will say that I am in that first category. I love that first draft, and I'm a plotter, so I plot everything out. But I love that. And right now I'm writing a new novel, and it's just the happiest place that I am. And the reason I created the book is because I would finish a draft and go, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. That was great. And then go, man, I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had to make myself figure out how to enjoy editing. And this is how I enjoy it. And I think once you learn kind of the power of it, and once you see the transformation that it can have on your novel and how it can take a good draft and make it really good, I think that's how you change your idea. Because there's a triangle, and I always wish we all create and edit and plot, but not necessarily in the same order. So you have the people who just blurt. They just sit down and write the novel.
Yeah.
And there are people like me who are planners. You know, I have a 15,000 word storyline, chapter by chapter, how everything's going to come together. And, you know, it will change. And so I'm not going to do as much structural edit, because I've already structurally edited the novel early on. But some people like to write 100,000 words and then pare it down to those poignant 80. And I'm like, the idea, that makes me, when somebody says they're a pantser, I just break out in hives because I'm like, that makes me a little bit crazy. But I had a friend, I'm lucky that I have a lot of lovely writer friends. And so I have some friends who are published writers, and they're on a WhatsApp group. And I said, would anybody be willing to just take a look at an early draft of this to see if I've missed anything? Are there any topics that I've just completely not included? And one of the writers said, oh yeah, great, I'll look at it. And then like almost 24 hours later went, nope, can't, you're not, it's making me crazy. I can't even think that people do that. And I was like, all right, that's fine. Questioning my sanity after reading the book is, you know, not an unusual thing to do.
You mentioned there, were you talking about structural edits or developmental edits or something? You hear about all these different kinds of edits. Line edits, copy edits. Give us like a quick idiot's guide to the jargon, the language.
Well, and I think that the part of the issue is everybody uses things slightly differently. You know,
right.
We all think we're talking like, you know, I call the moment that sets your novel in motion the inciting incident. Not everybody calls it that. So to me, the structural edit or developmental edit is looking at the big picture. It's looking at plotting and pacing and subplots, how they all tie together. It's looking at your character's emotional journey. It's looking at all those big things over the course of the kind of macro edit.
Yeah, the big shape, yeah.
The big shape of it. So, you know, this is the time you kill characters, you cut subplots that aren't really working into your novel. So from there, then you're going to go to more of a proofread. And proofreading means you're looking at consistency. You're looking, do you call where the prime minister lives number 10 NO period, or do you hashtag 10? You know, looking for consistency. Have you got addresses and names right consistently? You know, the proofread, have a good proofreader when you are getting published is like they are salt of the earth. You thank them for every little thing they pick up. That, you know, it's not actually on the northwest corner of the street. It's on the southeast corner of the street. You know, all those crazy things. And then the line edit. And again, line editing, I think, is what a lot of first-time or early-on writers think of editing. And that is, you know, going line by line and making sure that spelling, grammar, punctuation, all those things are correct. And I try really hard and fail some of the time to leave that to the end. Because I think sometimes we polish that first chapter. We're starting a project. We write that chapter. We write it. And then, we look at it on the screen. It looks like it's a finished work. You print it out. It looks like a book. And you have spent an ungodly amount of time on that first chapter. And when the editor comes along like me and says, you're going to cut those first 3 chapters, that is a horrible thing to say and a devastating thing to do. But it's not, that is a very common, I don't want to say error. Because I think we all need to know that ramping up. You need to know where you start, what's behind, what comes right ahead of the start of your story.
Yeah.
And, it's a decision how much of that ramping up you include in your story. And sometimes you need to write. I mean, I think whatever you have to write, however much you have to write, whatever preamble you need, whatever off the page writing of character or setting or whatever you need to do, it all feeds in, it's never wasted. It's all feeds into the final draft.
So let me put you on the spot now.
You haven't yet? Okay, this is scary.
So give us a taster. Like, okay, I've written a book. It's first draft.
It's not very good.
It's not very good. It's very rough. Give me my first task.
The first question I'm going to ask is, why are you writing this novel? Why is it important to you? Why are you compelled to write it?
These are awful questions. Don't turn it back to me.
And why
Sarah,
are you
that's not fair. Just because I've given you a hard question.
I'm not. You don't have to actually. But why are you writing the novel? Why are you the only one that can write it? Because I think.
Can I just ask? Does everyone hate that question?
Some people love it, and some people already have that. They know why they've started there. Because we also all start from different places. So some people start with an issue that's important to them, or a story. They want to tell something that connects to their life story in some way. And I think knowing why you're writing it, why you're the only one who can write it, is helpful. And I start out a project with that. But if you haven't done that and you have your draft, really sit down and think what's important. Because during this revision process, I'm going to ask you lots of questions and make every aspect of your novel fight for its life. And if you know what you will and won't change and what's important to you, then you keep that at the heart of your revision. If you get an agent's going to say, gosh, John, I love your novel. I love everything about it, but could you change the setting? I know it's set in the Antarctic, but really we've had a lot of Antarctic books right now. So if you wouldn't mind, set it more in the tropics. And I know your main character is a, 70-year-old male, but I'm feeling this is a teen story. So, how there's a wonderful YouTube video about, we love your book, change everything about it. And with agents and with publishers, they are going to, ask for changes because being traditionally published is a collaboration. And also, if you know what's important to you, then you know what you will and won't change. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's great advice.
So I'm going to turn it back to you. Well, I'm going to probably constantly be turning it back to you. But those are the big questions that I asked to start with. Because that can also help you say, so I started out really wanted to write about the moment as a teen when you realize your parents aren't perfect. That is a really important message to me, for example. And then as you've started writing this dystopian novel, you've been sidetracked with rebellion and love triangles. And, is the story really about what you intended it to be about? Or have you been persuaded by sparkly opportunities as you've written the novel? And that's okay, because maybe those sparkly opportunities are better than your original draft, your original concept, or maybe not. Maybe, but again, what's at the heart of your story? What's your intention? What's at the heart of the story, I think are so important.
Yeah. It's amazing how easy it is to lose sight of that as well when in the throes of writing your book. You can, that should never really leave your head, should it? But it does occasionally. Like knowing what the book's actually about.
And I know a lot of people who kind of post that somewhere that says, this is the story. And I think kind of writing your pitch early on and writing a synopsis early on as you're formulating an idea can be really helpful, because then you can keep going back to saying, yes, this is what it is. And also, if you've done a movie pitch like This Meets That, then you also can go back to those sources of inspiration if you feel like maybe you're getting lost a little bit. And I think it is easy to do, because also we're constantly, and I don't believe it's just me, constantly questioning, is this big enough? Is it or is it intimate enough? Or is it, revealing enough, or is it interestingly enough, or is it exciting enough, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. We can also get sidetracked because we think, oh, yeah, I know I wanted to write this deep emotional story, but I love a car chase and explosion, so I'm going to add a few of those. That's being a little bit crazy, but it does. I think it does happen.
Yeah. One thing your book does very well, actually, is apply itself, because people are different and people write in different ways. Just thinking there about the thematic thing. Mm-hmm. It can be that you start writing without knowing what that is at all. So you can't put it on a Post-it note, but you get a quarter or half a way through and it becomes clear what your subconscious is trying to put out. And then you can say, right, oh, yes, this is what it's about. So there's lots of different ways that people work. And your book, I think, does that very well. It's not, although it's very exact, it's not very prescriptive in that it gives people, it says, if you don't need this bit, skip it.
Yeah.
And it kind of, but you do, don't you? You show people what you should be looking for. And actually, if you've ticked all the lists on that and your character's fine, then crack on to the next chapter. And I think that's one of the things I took from your book, was how in-depth it was, but flexible at the same time.
That's great. That's what was intended. So that's lovely that that's what you pulled from it. And I think, again, we're not all the same, but I consider my first draft is where I figure out for sure what my novel is about. And a lot of times by the end, I go, oh yeah, this, I need to pull this out more. I'm in my work in progress, I have a character, and by the end, I really understood his motivation. I really understood much better, even though I did development, even though I did all the character things. By the end, I really understood who he was. And now I have to go back and finesse him a little bit more and make him a little more subtle in some places. But I think with theme, that's it. I think theme, often we get to the end and realize what are those messages we're trying to, but also I think sometimes you get to the end and you realize that's not the message I wanted. That's, yes, it's great action, or this is a great solution to this issue, but what's the takeaway? What is, and the takeaway isn't something, the ending is great, but it's saying something that you didn't intend for it to say. And then you have to decide, where you want to go with that.
You got to edit if you want merit, 'cause if you don't, you'll blow it and then regret it. Now we've said it, I think you get it, 'cause you deserve the goods that you inherit. Don't need a medic or anesthetic, just got to not be sloppy or apathetic. And now you've read it, you can take credit, while Sarah bears you through the headache. You got to edit, and then edit again, and then again, my friend, you gotta edit.
This is quite a stupid question. In fact, even in the asking of it, I'm wondering whether I should ask it. It's a bit of a piece of string question, but how long should we be spending on edits? Like, as a percentage of time to finish a novel, what do you normally give over to the editing process? Is it about half? Is it a little tiny bit? Is it massive?
I would say, planning and plotting I consider that separate, because sometimes, I'll be doing that for over a course of years. I'll have thoughts, and so that's separate. But when I start writing the draft, I think it's 30% is writing my rough draft. 70% is editing.
Oh my God.
But again, my process is I like to have a detailed, storyline summary, and then just write and not look back. Just write the next thing, write the next thing, write the next thing.
So you write quite quickly. Your first draft goes down relatively speedily.
Yes, because I hopefully I have done the work on setting and plot and character, so that I am just breathing life into a scene where I already know what happens. I already understand the attention. I already understand the beats that I have to hit. So that's why it's faster. Not, because I've already spent time doing that.
Yeah.
So but I think having the confidence in your revision process, you can enjoy the drafting so much more. You can just play and experiment. And I know, and I've done it, spent 4 hours on like 2 lines or something. And that's, I wish that was a joke. That's literally something I've done.
You're talking my language, Sarah. Love it. Oh,
but if I go, you know what? This metaphor isn't great, and I highlight it and I go, but I'll figure that out. This character, I still haven't figured out their quirk or their personality, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep going and know that by the end, and know that this kind of systematic approach, I'm going to finesse the heck out of everything, and I'm going to find as many typos as I possibly can. You know, I mean, that's the hardest thing. And I was talking to a writer who was going to self-publish, and he was just like terrified that there was going to be a typo. And I was like, have you ever read a book without a typo or without a misplaced comma? I haven't. And, you know, I don't think I've also ever read a book and gone, there's a period missing here. They've misspelled that word. Everything is gone now. I'm putting it down. But that's me.
I'm stopping on page 210 because that shouldn't be capitalized, and it is. So
embarrassing.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, maybe somebody does that, but
there will be some people that do that, and they'll be on social media telling people that they do that. They'll be quite proud of it, I'd imagine.
And I tell you, people, what I find interesting, and I feel like this is a little passive aggressive when people do it, is I've had people with my first book, and you know, with your first book, it gets out there, and I've wanted it since I was 8 years old, and it comes out, and you have like 5 minutes of joy, and then you have a long time of panic, you know, and somebody read the book, which is great, lovely. I appreciate anytime someone gives me that attention and reads something I've written, and they sent me an email of like 7 or 8 typos in the book, and I was like, I really liked it, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do with that information? And again, that I've written a book about revision, it's a strange thing for me to say, but I'm about the story. I am about the journey of the story, and I forgive almost anything if you take me on a journey and you make me lose myself, and that ending is, you know, compelling and satisfying and just all the things that I want. I will forgive you almost anything.
Sarah, is the one bit of editing that you still hate, despite professing to be the ultimate editing guide person? Is the one thing that you still go, I don't have to do that, really?
I think it's that line editing. Because, you know, the joy for me, and again, by that time, I have looked at every word, and I'm, you know, but it is just making sure. And one tip, and, you know, I'm not the first one to say it, I'm sure, but the read aloud function on is just my new favorite thing. And I will, right before I send it out, I will have my computer read it to me, which is a huge investment of time, but it finds all those the and ands that you've left out. And it finds that you think for and from. Or breath and breathe is another one that I always just, you know, because again, when we're editing, we read what we think we put on the page. Yeah. And my whole book is about discovering what actually is captured on the page. And that line, that, you know, line by line, and that looking at spelling, grammar, and punctuation, especially for an American who is being published in the UK, where we spell things differently, we punctuate things differently. And my language is mid-Atlantic. It really is. I have to constantly be saying rubbish. No, I don't say rubbish. I say trash, or, you know, all those silly little things.
I think when you get down to that line edit, it feels less like you're doing a writing job and more like you're doing a data entry job, isn't it? It's like very menial, very kind of...
The fun's, that's not the fun bit, is it? Definitely.
Well, and it's also the focus you have to have. I mean, because I can't line edit for more than about 45 minutes, if I'm honest with myself. Because otherwise, then you just kind of start skimming or reading what you think is on the page.
You're just reading.
And it's hard to like have that kind of laser focus.
Because it is, you're right, it's different to reading, isn't it? You're looking for different things.
Well, I always used to do when I was writing radio commercials was read them backwards, which you can't necessarily do with a novel, granted. But that was a brilliant way of stuff jumping out of you to mistakes, because obviously your brain isn't processing it as a flow of information. You're forcing it to look at it as a series of symbols and dots.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I if you're like reading things out of order, which is similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess it's just tricking your brain not to fill in the gaps, isn't it?
Yeah, because also I think when you get to that point where you're like, I'm pretty sure this is ready to go, so you're reading it for one or two of the last times you're going to do it, that I suggest reading like starting in the middle and reading to the end, and then reading from the beginning to the middle, because I find that if I'm just reading it from start to finish, at a certain point I will get fatigued, you know, and so I want those last chapters to be as polished as the first chapters, which is hard to do.
Otherwise, you've got an amazing first half of your book. It's just perfect.
I think we've just missed a brilliant opportunity to play a joke on our listeners. We should have got together before this, and we've had all this serious chat about editing. When we got to that bit, you should have said, Sarah, that the actual technique is to sit upside down on your
Yes.
head against the wall with your feet up. And then you have to close one eye, like make it really like weird, and just see if anyone actually tried that. Oh God, it might work. That'd be even worse.
And if we had people, because also we're all looking, for that magical thing that we should do. And if somebody said, if somebody told me to stand on my head, which would have taken some effort, but and do what I
Give it a go.
I might have given it a
It
go.
sounds plausible, to be honest,
Yeah,
Tom.
you don't know. Maybe it just if you say something about the chemistry in your brain changes. we could say all kinds of things
Extra blood flow and
to say that and if you only look at it from your left eye,
yeah, definitely. Then you're looking at
then your right brain is kind of switched off. so-
You're on it.
And
You've
this
got
could
it.
be it. This could be a changing
This is
moment.
going in the second edition.
That's right.
Yeah. And you could sell a little eye patch at the back of the book as well.
Marketing, I love it. That's exactly right. And then maybe you could do
Yeah.
decorate your own eye patch. You could have some gems
Yeah.
and some whatever. And also we're, as writers, always looking for doing those things that feel like work, but they're just procrastination. So decorating your own eye patch.
I'm going to decorate
is
an eye
clearly one of
patch.
those.
It's an essential part of the process. I
A
have to
little
do
known,
this.
but it's, only those who are at this echelon will do what we're talking about right now.
There was one of the bits in your book that made me think, oh, this is good. I've got to do that. That was such a simple thing. Speaking about kind of doing things that sound a bit silly. And I was like, why have I not thought of this myself before? Which was about putting your manuscript into one of the word cloud things.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things.
It's so instant.
And I think you can spend a lot of time on the color and the shape, and do that if you feel compelled. But it is an interesting tool because it will pull up the words that you use a lot, and it will, if you kind of look at it, it is communicating your novel in a way. And I did use it and found that there were characters who were getting much more screen time than I wanted to give them.
Yeah.
I had, a 3 point of view book, and I realized that 2 of them were equal in size, and one of them needed a little bit more help because they weren't getting and I wanted them to be equal, and they weren't at the moment. But also things like get and back and just and all, those are the words that come up, even though I know that I need to get rid of most of those. I still give in to that, and it's a great way to say no. You need to go look at that. You need to, because I always have a list of words with every novel that as I'm writing it, I know I'm overwhelm is one in this current novel.
Right, okay.
Now just all and get I always look for, because I overuse those all the time. I just did it, didn't I? Just did it. See? Okay. But then every book, there's one book, it was curl. There were waves curling, there were fingers curling, there was hair. Curl was my vibe there. And overwhelm, there's a lot of overwhelming things in the book. And one time it was a short book, and I had them laughing on a 70-page manuscript, because it was for kids, 160 times they were laughing. I thought,
Just the entire book was just them laughing.
maybe not so much, or even a different word. Maybe they're smirking or smiling, and they were
just a different word.
laughing
Yeah.
a little too much.
I have a psychological
it.
question for you here.
Don't do it.
I don't know how you feel about answering it. Do you have a suspicion?
A psychological leading question.
I have lots
Sounds
of
like it.
Um,
suspicions.
Yeah, no, it's very leading. I'm trying to think how to phrase it so it's not leading. No, do you think some writers have a kind of, I was going to say fear, some writers have a kind of suspicion that editing, or they see editing as almost like a form of failure, deep down, because clearly we all know we have to do it. But do you think that some of us harbor this little idea that somewhere deep down, editing is kind of why didn't you just do it well the first time around? You're clearly not much of a writer if you have to spend, 70% of your writing time editing. Come on.
I think I'd be interested in hearing the answer to this.
I think that reveals a lot more about the person who asked the question. That's all I'm saying. I think if you're a perfectionist, and if you write and then you revise and revise and revise and revise, then yes, I would imagine that you might feel that way. I am let's just have some fun. I'm going to write the story. This is going to be great. And I have no expectation of perfection or getting it right the first time. So I see it as a partner in the process. And I mean, and for me, I have really grown to enjoy lots. I mean, when it's endless, when you kind of, you're on draft 10 or 12 or 100 and you're like, still not working, or somebody tells you they don't think it's working. That's frustrating. But even if it's just validating, even if you do some of these exercises and you go, yeah, my pacing is pretty good. I've cut out a few scenes, but most of these scenes are important and matter. So yes, I'm sure there are people who maybe consider that, but I think it's a certain kind of writer, maybe it is that perfectionist, which I may have some, like, I am organized, but kind of organized chaos. I have I don't wake up without a to-do list. That's probably no surprise to anybody who's looked at my book. But that's the kind of person that I'm. And I do think that revision, seeing it as a very positive thing and as a way to kind of just play with your novel. Because also, you can change point of view. If you're working on voice and the voice isn't there, changing. If you're in third person close, change it to first person and see what happens. And just play around with it. It's when we think there's one way to tell the story. There's one way. There's a perfect way. And there's not. I mean, if I pulled out Dark Parties, which was my debut novel, I'm sure there are loads of things I would say, oh my gosh, why did you do that? And oh, this is a missed opportunity. But I always allow myself, I'm going to do the best that I can under the circumstances with who I am and what I know. And if I achieve, we talked about those big questions, why am I compelled to write it? If I achieve that, then that's a success to me. And I think in publishing, because, we haven't really talked about the truth of publishing, the difficulty of publishing. I think for me, changing that idea of success, or however you want to look at it, is just saying, what am I trying to accomplish? And have I done that? And if I have, that's success to me. If an agent loves it and if a publisher wants to give me 6 figures, I won't say no. But, those things are out of my control.
But it's not necessarily your criteria. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's changed over the course of, from my first book to now, because, and I also think as an educator, as a lecturer, as a teacher, as a critiquer, I will ask you that, John, because you might say, this is my idea. And I might say, that's really great. And I think blah, blah. But it shouldn't be, I think, here's the novel I would write. I have to say, how do I help you create the novel that you want to write? Whether I think it's commercial, whether I think it's a book I would read, doesn't matter. Those aren't, as a person trying to support you, aren't the questions I'm going to answer unless you ask me directly, and then I wouldn't lie to you.
Hopefully.
I wouldn't.
But that is the essence between a good editor and a not so good editor, isn't it? That's literally the difference. You can have all the technical skills, but that ability to bring out someone else's thoughts and style and intention versus imposing what you think would probably be the right thing to do, 2 very different things that isn't always the case.
Yeah, and I mean, a good editor is worth their weight, and it is, when you get to that point where you're looking for agents and editors, finding those people that get what you're trying to do. Because, we were meeting with publishers for Dark Parties, and, the feedback you get was, you need to make it a lot darker, and then, or you need to make it a lot lighter, or you need to not have a female protagonist, or whatever feedback they get, and you think, oh, maybe I've gotten it wrong, and then you have to go, no, this is the story I'm trying to write. This is the story that I want to write. And I had, at the end of Dark Parties, I had a wonderful editor, Alvina Ling at Little Brown, and she was my first editor. And at the very end, she said, can we make the ending more ambiguous? And because I knew I was writing it, and part of it was about the grandmother goes missing, and it was, does the young girl see her grandmother again? I knew I was writing it. So I said, I will change this period to a question mark, but other than that, and it was like a 4-page response to that, personally and professionally, why I cannot make, and she's kind of like, fine, go. Because again, it is that kind of collaboration, and you know what your intention is, what's at the heart of story. And a great editor, and again, why I picked Little Brown and Alvina Ling is because she read it and she said, here's what's not working. And like the moment she said it, I was like, you are correct. And I was like, you have unlocked something in this book that I couldn't do on my own. And you are going to make me a better writer and this book better. And I mean, she did all those things, and I was really thankful for her. And I remember this was, I don't know, 15 years ago now, and she was doing these lots of blogs about being an editor. And her one blog was how she worked with debut writers. And she said, I will send a debut writer a 9 to 12 page single space letter about, their first draft. And so when I got 10 pages, we talked about mediocrity at the beginning. And I was like, 10 single space pages? That's nothing. I'm not horrible. Whereas if I hadn't read that and I got 10 single space pages, I mean, I would have been weeping uncontrollably on the floor for days, thinking she hates
Good
it.
to set those expectations.
What happened with the editing of this book, The Ultimate Guide to Editing? Was that a bit of a weird scenario where someone was editing a book about editing?
It was terrifying. And I think my editor, who was, and Bloomsbury, are absolutely lovely. The whole team there are just brilliant. And I think eventually they kind of said, you need to stop now. Because, you're like, I could say this and I could say this differently. And I think that's the case. I don't care what novel you're writing. At some point, when you're just moving things around, you're making it different, not better.
Yes,
and that's, I think, John, you talked about, when do you stop? You stop when you're making things different and not better. And, that's where a writer's group or your agent or, somebody who knows you and your writing can help with that. And to say, I'm going to peel it from your hands now. It's good to go.
You definitely need people on the outside, don't you?
Yeah.
You can't just write your book and that's it. It just doesn't work somehow. You can't be objective.
And I think there is a time, and finding that time to share with people, though, because I think there's times when it's new and it's all coming together, or you feel it's all coming together.
It's a bit vulnerable.
And to have somebody kind of tinker with it or give you feedback at the wrong time can be devastating, that you got. And it is, the whole process is, I have to send it to my agent when I can think of absolutely no way to improve it. I'm like, this is it. I've done it. And bless my agent, Jenny Saville, who I've been with since 2008, I think. She always goes similar to, Sarah, this is really good, interesting, whatever adverb she chooses. And then she says, and then she gives me, and here's what you need to work on. And she's usually right. And I think, you have to be traditionally published, you have to have that spirit of this, I can't change anything. I'll change those things. Or, and again, knowing what you will and won't change, knowing about what battles to pick, it all gets back down to that. And because, my name's on the spine and I've got to be the one who says, no, this is what I want it to be. This is how I want it to be. What's the themes, all those things. This is the experience, I want my reader to have.
Yeah.
I can imagine there was a big argument where they said, no, you need to take the bit about highlighting stuff with an actual highlighter pen out. No one does that anymore, Sarah. And you're like, no, that stays in. My life is highlighters. I love highlighters. Right. How dare you?
Pick your battles. That's another, and
yeah.
I picked highlighters, man. And you say that, but there is some, and I don't know if you guys, at some point, do you print out your novel and read it?
I don't.
Or do you ever do
actually,
that?
No.
Do you send it to your Kindle, or do you send it somewhere else? So it looks
format
different?
It and send it
totally
to the iPad. Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah.
Man, no, there is something, and I don't do it as much as I used to do, but there is something gratifying about, and also then you have two chances to review what you're changing. When you make it and then when you type it in. And again, yes, maybe someday I'll stop that nonsense, but. Today is not that day. I'm still waiting for my highlighter, deal. I'm gonna be the spokesperson for some brand of highlighters and I'll be swimming in them. That's deep
that's
down.
The dream. Yeah. This is why you're doing what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've just uncovered that. Talk about psychological delving into my psyche. It's about the highlighters. But also, I think it's also about the notebook. I don't know but this, you have to have, this is the notebook for I know we're a podcast so people can't see it, but I have to have, with each project, you have to find that special notebook. And I think that really also might be the key to success. I don't know. This one hasn't sold, so maybe it's the wrong notebook. I'm sure it's not the character or anything else.
No, it'll be the notebook.
It's good to have something to blame as well. So if you can say, I know I worked 4 years on that, but if I had just had the Harry Styles notebook, it would have all gone differently.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Sarah, thank you so much for coming on and
Yeah.
sharing your revolutionary approach to transform your writing, which I might have mocked at the start, but I think we probably all do agree on now. So, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
definitely.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
I found that incredibly useful, Tommy. I think I'm going to read a book now. I've always, I think, assumed that editing is just like going back through your book several times, like trying to cover off everything each time.
Which it is, absolutely is. But I think with Sarah's book, it just puts it in these nice little easy to swallow thing. And there's so many little bits in there, like with the word cloud thing that we mentioned.
Yeah.
So simple, but I actually think, that's just a quick thing.
Yeah, I think your inability to focus on everything is really true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go back through your book with a very specific thing in mind. It's kind of obvious in a way, isn't it? But I'd never thought of it.
No, but
like
I think the other thing with that, it stops it being this massive thing.
Yeah.
You've done the huge thing of writing a book, which is an amazing achievement. Even just to finish your first draft puts you ahead of God knows what percentage of people that are trying to write a book.
Very true.
But then to go back it, I just think, oh God, I've got to go back and do it all again. Whereas actually, if you think, well, this bit will take me half an hour to go through and highlight what the protagonist says or whatever, and all these, you can split it into these little very manageable chunks. And for me, the way my brain works, that really, really helps rather than it being like an overwhelming thing.
Very good. Very good. We will have, obviously, information in the show notes about that book. So if you're interested, give it a click.
Right, now then, it is time. You know what it's time for, John?
What is it time for, Tom?
It's time for...
Typewriter, the right type of acclaim we all need occasionally, 'cause you're a mighty fighter. Type who lights up the writing world with your beautiful words.
This week we've got something from Lucy Brazier that sent us a short piece in. And, well, I tell you what, let's have a quick listen from Lucy first so she can introduce herself and say what kind of stuff she does. And then we'll go straight into listening to her story, A Strange Companion.
Perfect.
Hello there, my name's Lucy Brazier. I'm a writer and author, among other things. Currently based in Northampton. I've written 7 books, 5 fiction and 2 non-fiction. There's the Porter Girl series, which is a collection of 4 books based on my time as the first ever female deputy head porter at a famous Cambridge college. There's a couple of books on the works of James Joyce, one on Ulysses, one on Finnegan's Wake, and then there is the very silly political thriller Who Shot Tony Blair, which shouldn't be read by anybody anywhere probably. My works are usually quite light-hearted, a bit cheeky in tone, but the piece we're going to talk about today has got a much more lo-fi vibe about it. It was written shortly after the passing of my grandfather a few years ago, and then when we lost my dear Nan earlier this year, it seemed like the perfect piece to have as a reading and to honour her. It's called A Strange Companion. It's about grief and the different ways that we can look at it and maybe accept it. I really hope you enjoy it. Thanks very much.
A Strange Companion by Lucy Brazier. Grief is a strange and unreliable companion. We all must meet him sometime. We hope we won't get to know him too well, but even if we see him many times, we perhaps never know him entirely. He shows a different face to each of us, often a different face each time he comes to call. Sometimes he stands right before us, nose to nose, so close as to steal each breath from our mouths when we try to speak. Other times he shuffles quietly in the background, his presence vague. At once he can be beautiful and profound, then wretched and hideous in a heartbeat. We can lock our doors to him, bar our windows and turn off the lights. We can shutter every opening and seal every crack to him, only to find he was sitting there beside us all the time. We never know where or when we may meet him, nor for how long he will stay. Just when we think he will never leave us, we awaken one morning to find he has slipped away in the night. Sometimes we think we could almost bear him, if only he would make his plans known to us. The only thing we know for sure about grief is that we cannot hide from or avoid him. We cannot bargain, plead, or reason. I have exhausted myself with all these, while he remains tireless and unmoving. So, perhaps I'll try to look at him differently now. Perhaps I'll look him kindly in the eyes and let him sit with me, just for a little while. No longer to weep in his long shadow, but side to side with him, until all my tears are gone. Perhaps, in time, he might leave me with a smile instead, some warmth after all the cold. Maybe he will take my hand and place bright memories in my palm, and when one day I can't remember him, I will save a small space for him in my heart for when we meet again. Well, I like this a lot. It's not really a story at all, is it? It's an essay, basically.
Yeah, it's like a mini little essay.
Full of very well-observed little reflections. It's great. I thought the personifying device works really well for grief.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
There was a nice, an interesting flow change in it as well, I felt. Whereas at the start, it was quite observational and a little bit distant and less emotional.
Yeah.
And then as it kind of flows into it, by the time you get to the end of it, it feels you've been brought a lot closer into it. And
yeah. It almost becomes a little bit more poetic.
Yeah, a little bit more liquid at the end, like it's kind of.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know if that was intentional, like kind of intentional for the subject matter, that there is kind of the elements of sort of a formalness and an informalness to the whole process, isn't there, of how you have to experience. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, wasn't it? Just like you say, very sort of like an essay.
Yeah, but like you say as well, like the way it does take you on a journey, doesn't it? Like you say, it does sort of transform as it goes in the way that the best essays do.
Yes,
and it concludes very hopefully. You know what I mean? It's almost like it sort of changes your mind by the end, despite what it's actually about, and the real subject matter is sort of hiding underneath, isn't it? Because it's essentially about death.
Yeah, but it offers comfort, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And it's got a really positive end, doesn't it? It's a very sort of hopeful end, despite being quite sad as well. But I thought it was really nice.
Quite different, isn't it, from anything that we've had in, really?
It is.
Yeah.
It's really good. I like the way it's not trying too hard as well. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't tie itself in knots.
No, it doesn't go in with any heavy, hard-working metaphors that don't quite, and they're just really
it's just that
too clunky. It's just
that personification thing doing a lot of the heavy lifting, isn't it? It's just it's truth as spoken from experience. Very sort of matter of fact. Almost. Very, very nice. I love this line. Perhaps I'll look him kindly in the eyes and let him sit with me just for a little while. No longer to weep in his long shadow, but side by side with him until all my tears are gone. That's pretty beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Well done, Lucy. Brilliant. Thank you very much for sending that in.
Yeah, fabulous. Really good. You see, now I really want to read Who Shot Tony Blair. She's done that really clever thing. She's done that clever reverse psychology on that, hasn't she?
Don't read that one. Yeah.
Whatever you do, do not read this one. Should not be read by anyone ever. But yeah, bit of a red rag, that.
It is.
Very, very tempting.
So if you want to find out more about Lucy and her writing, you can go to her website, portergirl.com. We'll put a link in the show notes for that as well, obviously.
Well, wasn't that brilliant? I thoroughly enjoyed that. Can we just say, actually, little serious bit now, maybe a little bit overly sincere, sort of serious bit, just to prove that we can be occasionally. Tom and I are very grateful to you, people listening and supporting the show, and especially listening all the way to the end, right to this bit. It means a lot. You are probably our favourite listener, I reckon. You are the hardcore. So I just felt really sincere there for a moment. I just wanted to give our listeners a big thank you. Or listener, could be just one person. So thank you.
No, we do. We massively appreciate people
we
take
really
the time to support us in whatever way, whether that's just mention us on social media or donating a little bit of money or whatever it is, or buying merch or I don't know, just send us emails with your writing and saying, oh, God, you got me writing again or anything. It's amazing and lovely, and we really, really do appreciate it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And can I give one big fat shout out to Mason Nugent as well, who's given us a little bit of financial support as well. Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you. All right, that's enough of that, Tom.
I don't like.
That's enough of that stuff.
Yeah, it's nice, but it's a bit serious, isn't it?
It feels a bit dirty, doesn't it? Yeah, we'll see you next time, losers.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Get writing.
See ya.
Hello?
Hello?
Where's everybody gone?